this on? Do I have to get it really close? Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me even louder? All right. Whoa. Okay. I'm not sure what time it is, but we've just been working really hard at putting things together and everybody coming together, which is amazing. So I'm probably going to cry all over the place because I can't believe the help that we've gotten, just the people calling, people telling stories. I guess I didn't introduce myself. I'm Leanna Krotzer. I woke up one morning and noticed that it had gotten kind of quiet about a woman passing away because of her monster of a husband beat her to death. So that didn't sit with me very well. And our community, I already knew, had a huge heart, and we are one big heart bursting at the seams. And I am, if you can hear me over the wind, God showed up. He's been here all day, all 2 weeks. Oh, there we go. What I love is that we came together without worrying about our political differences. I love that we got together not thinking about whether we were Christians or atheists or whatever we claim to. We did this together with a great big heart, and it wasn't about being anything but for Donna Sullivan. We wanted to respect her. 2 months she was here. We didn't know her, and I don't even know if she was allowed to leave her home. They were living in a fifth wheel up at Collins Lake. I'm sure everybody's seen the reports. There's a lot of different ones. Some of them have more information that get pretty graphic, and they're very sad. So working through this has been through working through pain and working through stories of pain and working through tears. A lot of the work that I've been doing has been through a lot of just blurry tears. So, and I know that the stories that come to me are written through tears. Right now, just thanking our community and everybody that's come. We have a long list of people. So in your pamphlets, you'll see that there's a small story about her that we've gotten a little bit of information from the family through a local person that knew her family. And in there, you'll find a pack of resources, and you'll also see the thank you on the side there. Later on, we're going to have an open mic time for people to come and stand up for people that have dealt with domestic violence, whether it was themselves or it impacted them personally through watching it, losing someone. It's a good pamphlet to take home, and if you'd like to take a couple with you that you can pass on. And there's some, I made some cards that have some phone numbers on it, just a couple, but always if you're in danger or you know someone in danger, encourage 911, not calling your best friend. It's call 911 because you're worth that, worth the going to safety immediately. So it's about, can someone shout out the time? 7:25. Okay, 7:25. A lot of people I know we're going to show up between about 7:30 and 8. I'm going to in about 15 minutes, I'm going to ask that the tables that we do have here, Turning Point, and we have North Mason Resources, and we have, I always get this wrong, it's the Women's Self-Defense group there. We got the firefighters. They are feeding us today, and if they don't want to stand up, they don't have to. Yeah, we love you for feeding us. And Amy here, she's an author, and she wrote an awesome book. And I encourage you to go. She has some copies to hand out, and I encourage you to go and talk with her. But for the next about 15 minutes, if anybody wants to mingle around, I know you've mingled around a little bit, but I'm going to give them a chance to get themselves ready. And I would like to highlight that Turning Point is our only women's shelter. Lack of a better word, the battered women's shelter. That they are the only ones here in Mason County, and North Mason only gets someone from Turning Point a few days a week here in the North Mason Resource Office. So looking forward to them growing here. I would like to make sure that they're highlighted. There's some other people that are going to talk here too before that. And then after we do that, with the tables coming up, I call them tables, our organizations, our resources. And then after they stand up and talk, we're going to have a couple of women, a few women. My ears are popping. Anyway, they're going to get up and sing a song. And then I'm going to open it up for the open mic. And I have a couple stories that a couple people didn't want to share themselves, and I will read those. And if I can't, somebody needs to be ready to read it for me. So just for 10 or 15 minutes, then we'll have them fight out who's going first. So, all right. Oh. Is that if I bring it down? Okay, can everybody hear me again? I like to get it really close and then push it far away. Okay, so we're going to ask I'm calling them the tables. So I'm calling on the tables. We're going to go with North Mason Resources and then to the Women's Self-Defense. And then we're going to head over to Turning Point. And then Amy Johnson will get up. And then if I'm missing anybody, they'll come up after them. And then I'll come up and after they're done and introduce. We have a song that is going to be sang. And then after that, when we'll open it to, this ear, open it to open mic time. At that, I don't know what it is. And then we'll, open up to open mic. And then I wanted to explain this really quick here in front. Anytime we have a little break or if you're just walking around, and before you leave, hopefully before it gets dark, I want everybody to sign this that shows, sorry I'm going to keep doing this, but I have this thing. No, it's my ear keeps popping and I can't hear anything but like I'm talking into a tube. Anyway, I want this to be signed by everybody that's here, whether you're at a table, came in as just, you're coming to watch or whatever, even if you don't have a story. I want this to be kind of a collection of all of us. It shows what we can bring together as a community anytime. And I'm going to use it over and over, and I'll throw it up as a picture when we have to get together and do something later on, that this community can come together no matter what. So names here, and there's pens there, and it'll work. So North Mason Resources will be up, and this is Steve. Welcome.
Thank you all very much for coming out tonight. I'm the new executive director, and when I took on the job, I really had no idea of what North Mason Resources was all about. And what I've discovered is that we're sort of the catalyst. We're the inside part of that wheel, and we have many, many different spokes. So for people that come in and they'll say, oh, all we deal with are homeless people, and that's just a small portion of what we deal with. We deal with individuals that, for one reason or another, need a hand up. Not a hand out, but a hand up. So my personal experience has been in job development. I'm a firm believer that if you teach someone how to fish, you can feed them for life. If we just give fish to everybody, then we might as well just continue to feed. But people don't learn the skills that they need. So part of what we do at North Mason Resources is we give individuals the opportunity to work with WorkSource, which is the opportunity to build resumes and to find out a little bit more about yourself. So everything that we do there is provided for free to our clients. We have a wonderful veteran service officers. We have 2 individuals now that can help veterans. That's anything from assistance with housing, that's assistance with medical care, that's assistance for young children or anything else that's provided with those that served our country. So that's near and dear to my heart. In addition, Turning Point, I know Commissioner Randy. How did I lose Commissioner Randy? Oh, there he is. Hey, Randy, you can run, but you can't hide. Okay, there's Randy. I know Randy's going to talk a little bit more about Turning Point and the wonderful service that they provide within our building. In addition, we also have behavioral specialists, so individuals that need some help, that's available. Part of my mission that I'm trying to work on is let's not duplicate services, but let's find the other agencies that are within us so that we can collaboratively work together. It really makes no sense for me to collect food because I don't really have any place to store it. So we have the food pantry, we have the food bank, we have the hub. So what I'm trying to send out to the community is that those that have resources, those of you that have some ideas, please come and see us. We're there to support the community. We're there to help those that are in need. And ultimately, my goal is to work myself out of a job because I believe that if individuals gain those skills, individuals gain those abilities, then hopefully someday we won't be needed. And I think that's really what we're all trying to do today. I know it's a somber event because of the incident that happened, but I think in some ways that's what brings people together, and that's what makes us stronger. That's what makes us stronger as a community. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today. We have some materials. My staff, Skylar, stand up and wave. Thank you, Skylar. And Roman, stand up and wave. Thank you, Roman. These two individuals tell me what to do every day, and that's what I do. We try to empower others, and I think that's really what this is all about, is empowering others so they can find a way to help themselves and ultimately not be out there constantly just wanting. So with that, I will leave you. Jason, I guess I work for Jason. Jason is my president on our board. So Jason's going to talk a little bit about his organization. And once again, thank you all so much for supporting this event. It's an unfortunate situation that we need to be here for this type of event. But I think if we look at it from a bigger picture, it's a wonderful opportunity that we can network and we can find out what other skills and resources we as a community can do to help those that are in need. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jason. All right, you bet, man.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us. And what an impetus to go out and create awareness about domestic violence. And those of us who have been impacted by that are here to support. And the best thing that we could go out and do is educate and bring awareness. As Steve said, I am the board chairman for North Mason Resources. This is my 5th year on the board. And it's an amazing, amazing organization that is here to support the community. And then so, for us to sustain and be alive, we have to know that the community values us because it's hard. And as I've been on the board, I've shared it for about 5 years now, and typically around October time frame, we can anticipate the possible closure of the doors, because money dries up at points to keep it going. So we look forward to being able to keep supporting the community and providing services, because really it's all we got from here to Shelton, about half hour. You got Port Orchard, Kitsap Community Resources, another half hour, and we get clients from everywhere. Lily Wallop, Dulcie Wallops, you get people from Long Branch. That's where we are, and we're here to help, and we're proud to do that. I also serve as the president of the Allen Community Association. And what drew me to go out and serve and volunteer my time was that I am about community. And community takes relationships. It takes people, neighbors, knowing one another, caring, reaching out. And so as a community, we certainly are a strong community. We certainly agree that domestic violence has no stance here and anywhere. It's not something that should be accepted. And self-defense program that we have. 2 years ago, there was a gal that was raped on the high school campus here at North Mason. And my daughter, she was at the middle school at the time. And similar time frame, our former director of North Mason Resources, she deals with clientele, and she had been pretty much assaulted. And so at that point, I said to myself, well, what can I do about this? And so being a former Marine, I started researching programs, and I came across the American Women's Self-Defense Association. And so we've been certified instructors through them for the last 3 years or so. We teach at the Hub on Tuesday nights. We've taken August off. But what I'd like to promote is that we will be hosting a free class of self-defense for women to the community. That will be August 4th. Can you hear me better now? That will be August 4th. It's from 10 a.m. to 12:30, and we're going to give you a condensed version of the course. Seating is limited, but we look forward to having women and children come out. I think it's very important. I'll share a bit about what the program is. The program, what we do is we teach you self-defense, and some may think, when you think of self-defense, some think of mixed martial arts and such, and folks can be intimidated just by hearing about self-defense, I think, and especially women, as our society has cultured women and females to be gentle and soft-spoken and subservient or whatever, but we've progressed a long way. And what we teach in and I'm not saying that we are that now, our culture has progressed, but we are here to basically teach you how to create injury We'll teach you the legalities of deadly force, how to use your hard parts on an attacker's soft parts, and how to create the space so that you can get away. And within that, we teach tactics, of course, eyes, wind, and limbs. You go for that, you can be able to get safe. Also, we run the ladies or the participants in the course through conditioning drills where we make you feel, your body feels as if you're consumed by fear, because we'll take you through some exercises where you get a shortness of breath. And then we take you up to the pads and the dummy. We have a dummy, and we run you through drills so you know what it feels like to simulate when one is in fear and almost paralyzed. And we take you, so it's a conditioning training, it's empowerment training, and we'd love to have you. Our cards are here. Please stop by North Mason Resources, share the word. Turning Point, amazing mission, so needed. Thank you so much for tonight. We honor her life. We look forward to sharing and educating the rest of our community on what we can do to prevent this. Thank you so much.
Can you guys hear me? So my name's Tammy. I'm an advocate and prevention coordinator at Turning Point. I just want to give you some brief details of what we offer. So in the Shelton office, we offer shelter to women and their children. So we are one of the few shelters that offer shelter for women with their children, male children over the age of 12. We also offer safety for women with their animals. We are the third largest shelter in Washington State with a maximum of 54 beds. A lot of the times we're at capacity, and unfortunately we have to tell people we're full. We can't help them. So when we have to do that, then we connect them with other shelters in the area. We also have services for males. Male survivors can come in. They can receive all the services we provide other than shelter. Just recently we started at our spot with North Mason Resources in their building. On the 6th, we are having our ribbon cutting at 10 o'clock. We encourage everybody to come. Randy Netherland will be there. He has been our huge supporter in a lot of this. So we offer support groups. We offer legal advocacy. So if a survivor comes in and they don't have a DV protection order or any protection order to help protect them, our legal advocate will help them with that paperwork. They will go to court with them. They will do what is necessary to help and support them, as well as with parenting plans or divorces, legal separations. We offer those services. We offer one-on-one advocacy. A lot of times when a survivor will leave their abuser, their main focus is trying to get housing. And if all of you are probably well aware, housing is very hard to find these days. So that's one of our biggest challenges. We provide clothing, food. We even have donations that come in for the animals, the dog food, cat food. We refer them out for services if they need mental health help, chemical dependency, parenting classes. If we don't provide the service at our shelter or in the Belfair office, then we will refer them out. So in the Belfair office, we'll be starting support groups in not just English but Spanish. In the Shelton office, we provide the same services. We have a little bit more of groups. So the last Tuesday of every month, we have an art class at 1 o'clock. A lady comes in, she volunteers her time, and she does like an art therapy. We also have a Make Yourself Priority class with Don McWilliams, because that's very important. When the women or men come to us, they're broken. They have been broken down mentally and emotionally. So my job is to build them up, to give them that self-esteem, that self-worth, so they can see just how precious they are. So Dawn's class is excellent for that. We refer out for other things. Sometimes we have to rely on Crossroads for housing help, for deposits, first month's rent. We don't have funding for that. We work with DOC, we work with CPS. Law enforcement has a very high response rate for us when we call and we need them, so that is important. A lot of people aren't aware that we do have on-call, so if somebody's in an incident being abused, we can meet the client where they're at. We can come to where they're at, we can help get them out of that situation once law enforcement has already cleared the situation up. Thank you. I just want to thank everybody for coming and showing your support.
Hi, I'm Amy Johnson, and I've heard it said in memes and lots of different things over time to be the one that you needed as a child. And when my domestic violence story didn't happen when I was married, but I saw it happen to my mom, and it happened to us as kids. And I remember 38 years ago, I was that child that needed turning point. And I remember late at night and the big fight that had ensued in my family, and there was breaking of things, and then my father finally passed out and my mom was wounded. And I remember she got us together as quietly as possible, and she got us into the car and she took us to a place, and it was a shelter, a battered women's shelter. And I remember walking into that place terrified, clinging to the side of my mom, not knowing what we were going to do, not knowing any of these people. And these women at this place that we went, they were kind and sweet and loving. And I remember they gave me a teddy bear. I still have him today. As a matter of fact, he sleeps in my daughter's room. And his name is Rufus, and she still has him. And I remember they handed us things like a little stack of clothing in our size and a toothbrush that we could use the next morning. They fed us dinner and they gave us breakfast in the morning. And we had a couple of times where we went into a room with a couple of other kids. There was like 3 or 4 other kids in this room with us. And my mom went in and got counseling. And we were there for a few days and until it was safe. They worked out a way. I don't even know, I was a little girl, but worked out a way. Eventually it was safe for us to go back home. And my mom would always return home, because even in those times when she was able to get out of her house and escape her abuser, she always went back, because there is something inside of us that loves and cares, and we go back often to somebody who's hurting us. And it took people like Turning Point and eventually ending up there again and again before my mom finally figured things out and got us safe. It was years after that my dad actually ended up in prison and really was pulled his life together, believe it or not. And my mom pulled her life together. And out of that dark place in my life is where I wrote Lessons from the Crawl Space. And in my bedroom when I was young, I was in the bedroom that if you went into my room, underneath my toy box in my closet, there was a floor lined in carpet that all met together, and you could lift it up, you could pry it up, and you could go underneath the crawl space. And I had a carpet bag that my grandmother had put together for me that full of all sorts of things, and I talk about it in my book, but I remember I had a flashlight, and she would constantly feed me new batteries for that flashlight because it's scary to be in the dark. When you're in a place of domestic violence, you are in the dark, and it's scary. And the message that I wanted to get out there was that darkness cannot exist in the light. And when you bring things out into the light, suddenly it shines something on it, get it out in the open. And that's what my heart is to be there to support and love on and help women in need. And often it's men too. I don't mean to sound like it's just women out there, but the victims are often women. And it's places like Turning Point that seriously make a difference. When you don't know where to go and you don't know who to turn to and you're scared to death of the person who's been abusing you, there are places to go. And the last thing that I wanted to say is it's us as a community. We have to come together and shine light in the darkness. We have to let people know where they can go. When you're in the midst of a situation that's painful and that's hurting, you can't see clearly to know what it is to do. But it's each one of us who can get out there. We can be the lifesaver. We can be the life changer. We can get out there and make a difference. And by shining a light in the darkness and saying, here I am, and I'm willing to walk your hand through the scary place. That's what people need. And so I encourage all of you, come back, get a copy of my book. I would love for you to read it. It's free. Matter of fact, some of my incredible ladies came together and helped me buy these so that they could be free for you guys tonight. And I just want to encourage you, if you are in a place where you need help, then get help. And if you are in a place where you can be helpful to someone else, then be helpful. Because each one of us has an opportunity to make a huge difference if we'll just step out of our comfort zone. Thank you.
Do I have any more people from tables, organizations that are wanting to talk? Okay. Amy, you always pull on my heartstrings. You get me. We also, Turning Point has 2 advocates here. So if you have anything at all to talk to them about today, feel free. And if you don't want to, there is, they have cards there, and I think, and I made a couple of cards up here with some phone numbers on there, but they're the most peaceful, loving people to talk to. We're going to open up for, is it latte? Yeah. They came together, called it that from all of their first names. I believe they add it together and they call themselves latte. But they're going to come up and sing a song, and they'll tell you what that is when they get up here, because I don't want to get it wrong. And we'll go from there.
Thank you, guys.
Put this one down in my hand.
So, my name is Amy DeVries, and this is my mic check.
What was that?
How about now?
No. We can do with less mics.
We can use less mics. Would that help? Hello.
I can turn this one back on.
No. How about you and I share?
You turned yours back on. I got that.
So this is the one that's correctly.
Yep.
Okay. Is it identifiable? To you? Okay. I'll use it real quick. All right. How about now? Okay. All right. My name's Amy DeVries, and this is Tiffany McKay and Lynn Stewart and Daniel Fuller over there. And normally we have a couple other people that join us, but they weren't able to come. So, but yeah, we just enjoy singing together at community events. So this is a wonderful opportunity. We're going to sing True Colors, and we hope that it's a song of encouragement. Yep. It's coming through the speaker.
To take courage in a world full of people. Of it all, the darkness inside you can make you feel so small. Show me a smile then. Don't be unhappy, can't remember. Last time you're laughing, this world makes you crazy, and you take in all you can bear. Just call me up, 'cause I will always be there. And I see your true colors shining through, and I see your true colors. That's why I love you. Are beautiful, and I see true colors shining through, and I see your true colors. That's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let me show your true colors. Colors are beautiful, like a rainbow. Oh, can't remember the last song you makes you crazy, and you take in all you can bear. Just call me up, 'cause I will always be there. I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors.
Yep. Come on. Can you hear me now? Okay. They need to put, Randy Netherland's looking at me right now, and I hope he knows that we need to put ourselves a gate right there. And it's my fault because I got really caught up in watching everybody and crying and having a good time. And whether it was crackly or not, I should say, that was really wonderful. Thank you. I love that song. This is going to be the open mic time. And I have something I have 2 to read. If I get a little bit into this and I can't do it right away, I may have to stop and just turn it over to whoever wants to stand up. So, I think this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Nope. I'm going to call somebody. Who would like to stand up? All right. Sue? Oh, you want to read that? That would be wonderful. I will try to hold on to the second one and try for it, but you may be on that one too. So, Sue,
okay.
Go ahead. I don't think there's a name at the end, but we're not calling it.
Right. I have never met Donna, but she is my sister, and my heart is broken for her. For all of us in this sister and brotherhood of abuse victims and survivors, her story is our story. One of fear and isolation, of heartbreak and pain. Hers ended in the worst way possible, but hopefully it will not be in vain as we honor her tonight in the effort to open eyes and hearts to the horrific issue of domestic violence. Domestic violence affects everyone, women, children, men, and it changes people. Its effects are forever, and even if we survive and learn to overcome, the experience gives us a new perspective of ourselves, relationships, of others, and not always in the best of ways. The damage often is not just physical, but emotional, psychological, and for children also developmental, and it is permanent. For many of us, PTSD affects even the simplest things we experience and twists them into tense and even frightening situations for us. I still jump involuntarily because of loud noises, can't handle the concussion of slamming doors or the rattle of dishes in the sink when my husband is doing dishes. It puts me on edge to the point that I have to leave the house. I am often in a state of hypervigilance, which can bring me to the brink of tears for seemingly no reason. With abusive relationships, for those who are on the outside looking in, it is easy to just assume that it's just a typical lover's quarrel and that you or the victim may be making a bigger deal out of it than it is. Or worse, that somehow the victim deserves it, such as a child being punished for misbehaving. You may be friends with both the abuser and the victim and do not want to take sides. But this can empower the abuser and isolate the victim. And there is always the risk that if you do take sides and support the victim, that the abuser will increase their attacks and even turn on you as well. It takes courage to acknowledge the abuse, to speak out and to act, whether you are the victim or the outsider looking in. Victims can often be convinced that they somehow deserve the attacks or that it's just normal relationship dynamics, the ups and downs. Especially if people they trust and respect don't understand what is happening and unwittingly affirm these thoughts in the victim. I hope that Donna's situation helps others realize that we must, as a community, learn to recognize abuse and to acknowledge it, to speak out and act against it, that it will motivate us to all work together to stop domestic violence. I have agonized over writing this for nearly 2 weeks. It has made me sick to my stomach thinking about it. Remembering the scenes in my own relationship with my abuser was like reliving them. I break out in cold sweats, I shake, I cry. Discussions that have been brought up about Donna's abuse and murder has affected me in ways I hoped were over for me. But the fact is, it is forever a part of who I am. My own story is now 20 years old, but there isn't a day that I don't feel the effects of what my then very young daughter and I went through. My ex-husband was very crafty, very intelligent, and very manipulative. He was an expert con man. He was smart enough to keep his actions and the damage he wreaked upon us being hidden from plain sight. He went to extraordinary lengths to keep me isolated and away from those he knew could offer me support, who could help me stand up to him. I believe very few people really knew, and they were tricked into not saying anything, not being willing to take sides, or even to try and make it my fault that the relationship was so rocky. Even my own biological father told me that I needed to stick it out and break this cycle of divorce that had plagued his side of my family. My best friend didn't want to take sides when I needed her the most. Both said they never saw the abuse, so they were not convinced it was happening. It deepened my isolation and my abuser's grip upon me. My abuse was namely sexual, emotional, psychological. He was also physically violent, but knew how to make it hurt without leaving marks that were easy to identify as abuse. There are still holes in the walls and doors of the house I live in today, reminders of his rage and fits. He raped me often, but I could not use this against him because we were in a committed relationship and eventually married. He had me convinced that it was my duty to satisfy him, that it was my fault that he sought sex out with others, porn, strip clubs, etc., because I was fat or not giving him enough satisfaction. I was not fat. I was a size 5, though I lost weight to please him and was at one point a size 0. I was still too fat. This affects me today, my self-image, my current marriage. Thankfully, my husband is amazing and patient. Marriage counseling backfired on me. I was told by countless counselors and religious figures that I needed to be a better wife, that it was my duty to keep him happy, literally that it was my fault that we fought. That divorce was not an option and that I would be damned for the rest of my life if I left him. Nearly everyone that I should have been able to trust took his side or would not take sides at all, and it made me feel like I was the problem. I later realized that this is crazy making, also known as gaslighting. It is a very common tactic used by abusers, but my own abuser was able to pull in damn near every support system I might have had and get them to gaslight me as well. In spite of all the physical violence against me, the knife to my very pregnant belly, the gun held to my face in a fit of rage, the road rage where I could do nothing but hope and pray that he'd not wreck the vehicle just to hurt me because he was so angry with me. It took him hurting our daughter for me to realize that I had to leave him. I didn't leave him to protect myself. I didn't have that self-preservation anymore to try. I finally realized that he was going to become more and more bold with her and would very likely do irreversible harm to her someday. Today, 20 years later, I realized that he had done irreversible harm already. My daughter today deals with anxiety, panic attacks, lack of self-esteem, chronic fatigue, and other symptoms of PTSD that are more likely are rooted in the tumultuous childhood she had. Even after I left him when she was 3 years old, he started a 3-year battle to gain control of me using the system to punish me. He made false accusations against me and my parents in an attempt to again isolate me and to take my daughter away from me. He was successful for a short time. He had the courts and CPS convinced that my family and I were involved in harming my daughter, and they gave her to him. Legal kidnapping. In spite of my trying to protect her from his abuse, the system miserably failed her and me. She had zero stability till finally, when she turned 6 years old, the courts got tired of the battle and just granted him joint custody. As soon as he had that, he left the state for Texas. He no longer had to pay child support, and he left the state, leaving her with me, thankfully. I could not get a lawyer in Kitsap County to touch my case pro bono. They knew the case and were afraid of him, and the possibility that he would drag it on for years again and they would not get paid. I could not get anyone to help me change the parenting plan, so I never saw a dime in child support. I did not care. She was safe from him. But the damage he had already visited upon her was done. She still deals with this today as a young adult, trying desperately to function as a normal person. She's strong. She knows her history. She is embracing her issues instead of trying to deny or hide from them. But it is taxing and exhausting for her. She is a fighter and a survivor like her mama. But a day doesn't go by without my wishing that I could have done better for her, that I could have spared her this trauma. My own trauma is still raw. I have no real closure, but I am alive, my daughter is alive, and I am happily married now for 18 years. My children have grown into amazing, warm, caring, responsible adults. I don't have much material wealth, but I am rich in love. I still have pain, physical, mental, emotional, but the support I have from my family sees me through. Support has given me my strength to keep fighting and to keep pushing onward. My story is so much more than this little bit I shared. I could go on for hours trying to tell my story. My situation was so complex, so twisted that even so-called experts were confused and weaponized against me. My story affects so many more than just myself or even my daughter. I'm extremely lucky to be alive today, and I'm grateful to be alive. In the end, my abuser would not have had to kill me, though I have no doubt that he would have at some point. I would have killed myself. That is exactly how much control an abuser can gain over their victim. In the end, I hope my sharing this little bit of what I went through opens eyes and helps other victims to know they are not alone. There is an entire sister and brotherhood out there of victims and survivors. That there are thousands of us who understand and know what you are going through. That you are not crazy, you are not to blame, and you do not have to stay in the situation you are in. There also needs to be more change, more growth of the legal system to hold abusers accountable and to give victims the support and safety they need. Change comes when the community demands it. If we open the eyes of the community to just see how badly we need this change and what change is needed, perhaps it can become a reality. I am lucky I survived. Donna wasn't so lucky. Thousands of others aren't so lucky. This has to change. It is up to us, community. What will we do about it?
Hi, my name is Dinah Griffey, and my husband is your state representative, Dan Griffey, and this is an issue that's exceptionally near and dear to our heart. So I'm going to share with you a little personal story that we experienced in 2014. It was August. My daughter had a wonderful boyfriend. We were really happy with him. He came in our house all the time. We just loved him. He had a great family. I thought that our family was going to expand and incorporate all these new people, and I was kind of excited about it. And on August 10th, Megan called me, and I couldn't understand what she was saying. Her voice didn't sound right. Something was horribly wrong. And growing up, I did all the right things, I thought. I gave the girls code words that we would use. So if you're ever in trouble, if something goes wrong, you use that word. I warned them about kidnappers. I warned them about all these bad things that could be potentially happening to them. And I couldn't get over how funny her voice sounded. And she said, Mom, I fell and I hit my face. And I said, you did, huh? And I talked the conversation out with her, and I hung up the phone, and my husband turned to me, and it was late at night, and he goes, Dinah, something's wrong. Something's really wrong. And I said, I know. So the next day, I just showed up, and I went there, and I saw her, and we went directly to urgent care. I didn't take her home to see her dad because I figured if I did, that would be the end of the person that had apparently done this to her. And urgent care was wonderful. They were really good to her, and her face, She didn't break any bones, but the bruising was just all over her face. And what he had done was he didn't like her, and he had picked on her and brought her down to the lowest level by complaining about her weight, complaining about her looks, complaining about how she cooked, how she talked. Everything she did was wrong all the time. And even though I'm her mother and I was very close to her, I couldn't seem to get through. And I don't know why she didn't talk to me. And so when Donna died, we talked about this because I remember what happened to Megan. And we did call the police from urgent care, and they did come, and they were really good to her. And I thought, okay, good, we got her out of that situation. We're going to be fine. The next thing I know, 2 days later, she went back to him. And I was just heartbroken. I thought, I'm just going to wait for that phone call that no one wants. It's going to be my phone next. And it was really scary. And so when Donna died, Megan and I talked about it. She is married now. Her son is now 3 days old with a wonderful, wonderful husband, and I know him very well, and I feel really good about him. She said, Mom, our code word was mermaid. I said, yeah. And she goes, how do you use mermaid in a sentence? And I thought to myself, you're right. You're absolutely right. How do you use that? She was so afraid that he was going to pick up on anything, and she was at a fear level that it didn't matter if he could even catch on. She thought he could. And she was very aware at all times of where he was and what he thought she was up to. And it was like she was living in her own personal jail. And I can remember some of the times where she was moody, and I was like, hey, knock off the attitude. And I didn't realize why there was the attitude. So I guess what I'd like to leave you here with tonight is that Dan and I care very much. We want to do absolutely everything we can to help all these victims and be there for them. But I think after talking to Megan, one of the things that we learned was don't assume that someone's just being rude or a jerk. Maybe they have something bigger going on, and to just reach out and hug them. I wish instead of telling her to improve her attitude, I'd just hugged her. Maybe she would have told me before she was hurt. And I am lucky with the injuries that she sustained that she's alive today, but she is. And I'm hoping that maybe you guys out there that have your code words think a little bit deeper about how you can use those, or maybe come up with a phrase or something where you can get someone's attention. But always be aware that when you're in the grocery store and there's someone in line next to you, strike up a conversation. Just try and show the world around you that you love them, because you never know what their needs are, and they might not be willing to tell you. But the fact that you were kind to them might give them that strength at 4:01 in the morning when they've just about been killed, that they can reach out to someone because people do care, and that someone's going to make a difference. So I'll leave you guys there with that. I'm going to take my little monkey home because I think he's making you crazy. But I really appreciate this vigil. And Leanna, thank you so much. Can we all give Leanna a hand? Thank you. And all these groups that showed up tonight when it's cold and it's windy, and we all came here because we care. And I really want people to see what Diedrich's recording, because I want them to look at this and see that each one of you care, because it makes the difference. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Sherry Dingus, and I grew up in a household that had domestic violence. When we speak of domestic violence victims, the focus is generally on the person who was actually physically battered. Yet, the punching, kicking, stabbing, degrading, name-calling aimed at the victim frequently lands in the hearts, minds, and souls of the children as well. As a child, I became increasingly aware of the danger I was in. There was never a guarantee that I would awaken in the morning, or that I would be alive to say a prayer before bed. The two people whom I was told were my nurturers and protectors were the greatest dangers in my life. One enjoyed being cruel more than he enjoyed breathing. The other made excuses for him and let fear guide her decisions. She was afraid to leave him. She was not afraid to attempt suicide and leave her children alone with him. I was lucky enough to walk in on her, to witness what I considered at the time an act of selfishness. I understood her desperation and her desire to end the beatings. What I could not understand was how she could leave me to cope with what she could not. She ran. She made us run. She said, I can't. I have no money. She said, I'm helpless. Then one night, it became clear that if we survived this blow-up, we would not live through the next one. That night, my mother wound up in the hospital. We wound up in an orphanage. When we were united, my mother again began making plans to go back. We had had enough. We would not wait for him to plan our deaths again, or her to protect us. We informed my mother that if she went back, we felt that we only had two options. We could either be murdered, or we could become murderers. We planned to kill both as they slept. So, we told her so. Only a divorce and not going back would stop us. She found energy and capability from the threat to finally get a divorce. The reign of terror ended against her. But dysfunctional childhoods take a toll. PTSD, alcoholism, other drug addiction, personality disorders, next generation domestic violence are just a few. Vigils are amazing, but if we offer compassion, thoughts, and prayers without recognizing domestic violence, which has grown in the dark, behind closed curtains, comes out in the day to spread like a plague from generation to generation, little will change. We must stop hiding the abuse. We must open our eyes to the fear in other people's eyes, bruises and broken bones. We must stop saying it's not my business and find a way to end domestic violence now.
I'm Ava, and I'm 12 years old, and most of the people here are adults and can better understand this than me, but I and where'd you go? My mother, have both endured domestic violence, and on another note, I did not know Donna nor of her, but one day after school, my mom came to me in the kitchen and she's like, a woman passed away because of her abusive husband, and I felt selfish because all I said was, do we know her? But then I realized you don't have to know someone to have empathy for what's going on in their lives. So, I wrote a poem about Donna's life, or an outsider's view of her life. So, a woman moved to this town upon her face a frown, because a shadow of a man couldn't control his anger. This woman was in danger, yet she kept quiet, hiding behind her mask, her home in Collins Lake. She died from his mistakes and his sins. Now, does the bad guy always win? Not today. So together we stand, extending a helping hand to Donna Sullivan, her heart taking place in a purple ribbon.
Good evening. My name is Karen Hare. I lived with domestic violence as a teenager. I am deeply sorry and deeply troubled by the events that led up to this vigil. As a teenager, just starting to prep for nursing school, I lived with domestic violence. I would finish dinner and I would start to study for school, and then it would start. Loud yelling and furniture throwing around the room. I would run to the kitchen and I would pull out the hidden bars I had to jam the knives in the silverware drawer so they could not be used. I would then grab my dog and run upstairs and grab the landline phone. Yes, there was a landline phone. This was that many years ago. To my room and guard the doorway. The cops would come by, not once, not twice, but 3 times back then. And the only reason it would stop was because at that point in time they got frustrated and threatened to take someone to jail. Then the adults would go to bed and sleep immediately. And I would spend up half the night literally throwing up everything I'd eaten during the day. I'd sleep 2 hours, I'd go to school on the train, and I'd come home the whole way praying that I would not come home to find dead bodies on the floor. My story is not as impacted as many that I've heard as a nurse, but it is a story that I've heard before. This is a multi-generational disease. It is mixed with addictions and with a lot of Me Too's, and not just females, but males as well. They use socialized subjugation, fear, blaming, threats. They control the resources and the information of their victims. They very often move their victims and their family away from any social connections so that they cannot be saved or helped. We need to open our hearts, band together. We need to be brave and stand up. And if you see something, please say something.
Hi, my name's Julie, and my daughter is Holly, who helped organize this, and it was my amazing granddaughter who came up here. And I'm really proud of them and the people that they are. And I just want to ask you all to reach out and help change the culture, because it is a multi-generational problem. And I mean, I could stand up here all day and go on, but I ask everybody to put your support out there and help change, not just in our community, but everywhere. But one thing I want to point out is the word dismissal, because I think it happens a lot, and I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made in my life, is when that hand reaches out to you in the dark, or that voice comes across the phone and says, "Mom, this happened," that you don't just say, "Oh, it's not that big a deal. Oh, things like that happen. He'll grow up, he'll change." No, grab that hand. Tell that voice you're there. Go get them. Because if you don't, you may live to regret it. And I just ask that everybody, if somebody calls you, somebody reaches out to you, pull them to the light. Thank you.
This is not a personal story, but it's something that I have observed in many people. And this is something you all need to be aware of, is that none of this starts up one day that he just beat you right from the beginning to the end. It builds slowly. Think about the things that go on. Think about the time that he got mad at you, but then he was sorry. Think about how he doesn't want you to go anywhere without him. Oh, he loves me so much, he wants to do everything with me. No, he wants to make sure he knows exactly what you're doing. And then it's kind of like, oh, he just wants me to be with him because he loves me so much. No, he wants to stop you from having friends. And, oh, he wants to help me go to the grocery store. No, he doesn't. He wants to make sure that you are doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, that he wants to pay attention to the money. He wants to pay attention to all that. All those things are going to just keep getting worse and worse, and that's all part of isolating you and making him be able to control you. Don't think that's love. That's not love. That's control. And be aware of that. And don't think it's because he loves me so much he just wants to be with me all the time. That is not what it's about. It's not.
Sorry, my legs are so cold they wouldn't bend. What I want to say is I got in a relationship with a man shortly after some real traumatic things had happened in my life. And so I was in a vulnerable place. That being said, what she just said is the thing. You think it's love. You think, gosh, I've never had this much attention, et cetera, et cetera. And my son even said to me one time toward the end of it, he goes, Mom, how could you do this? How could you let him talk to you that way? How could you? He says, what'd you choose him for? Well, you know what? Did I wake up one day and go, wow, I like that guy. He's an abuser. I think I want to be with him. No. It's the old story of how do you boil a frog? You put him in cold water and you slowly turn the heat up. I had no clue. I had no clue that I was being cooked until I was assaulted and I was beaten in my chest. My business went down the hill. And so what I want to highlight here is there was a group in another city close by. I called them. I don't know why I called them, but I was a mess. From my truck, I called them, and she put a label to what was going on with me. She gave it a name. She not just abuse. She told me this, and this, and she absolutely affirmed me. And then I understood what it was, and so that gave me the confidence to change the locks on the door of our business and get out of town. I mean, I literally had to get out of town to get away from him. And he said to me at one point, I am going to kill you. I don't know when, I don't know how, but you won't know it, but I'll be there and I'll kill you. And that was 14 years ago. And every now and then, when I'm in town, like the last time was in Dairy Queen, I thought I saw him. Oh, my heart. I thought I was over it. 14 years, but wasn't. And then I'll say this real briefly because I know we're all freezing, but it's interesting that this gal, Donna, was from Ketchikan, Alaska. That's where my sister lived. She and her husband for 35 years, and we didn't know. We didn't know what was going on. And they lived in log camps in remote areas, and they lived in Ketchikan. And when logging shut down up there, and they moved down here, and we saw the way she was treated. Oh, my sister was a strong woman. I just couldn't believe it was her. If I hadn't gone through what I was going through, I would not have recognized it in her. But by the time she came down here, she was beaten down so much. I don't mean physically, but She got cancer and she just did not have the will to live. She just could not do it, and he was not there for her. In fact, he died 3 days after she did. He was perfectly healthy, except that he was an alcoholic, but he couldn't live without her. It was such an awful relationship. But my point to say this is the resources in that gal that was on the other end of that phone that day that identified this stuff for me literally saved my life. She gave me names to put to what I was going through, because as I said, the heat gets turned up so slowly you just don't know what's going on. And 35 years of abuse, I saw how that ended for my sister. It destroyed her health. I'm happy actually that she's in heaven now. My gosh, she's a happy girl. But I'm very sad for those that are tortured, and it keeps us praying. And I thank God it was only the act of God that got me out of what I got out of.
I'm absolutely terrible at this. Yeah, okay. All right, so you're my backup. When I heard of Donna's death, my heart broke. I felt her pain inside of me. It brought back waves of memories of my 15 years of abuse. My abuse started when I was a teenager. I knew it was wrong because my parents never had anything but love between them. But my boyfriend would always say he was sorry and buy me flowers. As the years went by, the abuse my husband had gotten much worse. But now I am married and figured this is my life. Being spit on and told I was worthless had now become a daily routine. At one point, I had been knocked out by my abuser. When I came to, I had a gun in my face. I begged him to pull the trigger. Because I didn't want to live this life any longer. As time went by, after many years of trying to have a child, I got pregnant through artificial insemination. Before my pregnancy, I was never abused. I thought things were finally going to be okay. Boy, was I wrong. After my daughter was born, my husband became very jealous of the time I gave to our baby. Now the abuse was getting much worse. But in my mind, I thought, how can I ever get out of this situation now? I have a baby and no job or income to care for her. My husband now began disappearing for days. Come to find out, now he had started using meth. The combination of an already violent man and meth created a monster. On the occasion, my young daughter and I were hiding in the bathroom when my daughter says, "Can we get a new daddy? Who will be nice?" On that day, I knew I had to find the courage to change my life. At the time, I did not care about me, but I wanted better for my daughter. I always say my daughter saved my life. Now, after hiding the abuse for so many years, I told my family because I needed help to have him removed from my home. Unfortunately, things got much worse. Now that he was out of the house, he was losing control, which made him very angry. He began stalking me, leaving notes on my car saying he would burn down my house. A no contact order was put in place, but that was just a piece of paper. The final thought and last time to ever be the final night and last time to ever be abused was the night he broke into my home. He was very high and very angry. He was demanding $10,000 from my dad, and he would leave me alone. After 5 years with a knife to my throat 5 hours with a knife to my throat, I finally escaped. He was later arrested for breaking a no-contact order. Numerous counts of domestic violence and unlawful imprisonment. He was incarcerated for 5 years. He does live in the area now. He has apologized for all those terrifying years. I do forgive him, but I will never forget. I want to encourage anyone in an abusive situation to seek help through the resources available. Please know you are not alone. I did not know Donna, but I feel a connection with her. I know she is safe, at peace, and smiling down on all of us this evening.
First off, you'd be wondering, why is there a man standing up here with some of the things that are going on out there? And I hope I do take the time to explain it properly. But first, before I do that, I want to say the name Donna Sullivan again. Donna Sullivan. Right now, I'm sure she's appreciating you for putting this together and making her name go out. And your daughter, she left. Wonderful ladies that reached out to other women in hopes of getting this person's name to have a meaning, to not just have passed through the news in a day, but instead to hopefully create a change in our community. So first off, thank you for doing everything you've done. I also want to thank Turning Point, because for many of you, you may not know, but now Turning Point is in North Mason. They're actually here. Until recently, they weren't. We were all by ourselves out here, except I want to remind everybody, you always had the churches. They were always there. Now, again, being a man, it's hard to imagine when you hear the different stories of abuse and you hear the little comment about men, automatically you would think of a man that's maybe had been abused as being a very small or weak person. You'd be shocked to find out that it doesn't always work that way. As a matter of fact, it can be an ex-bodyguard. I myself, believe it or not, have been stabbed. I have been run over with a car and a coffee mug across my head. And it took me a few years, almost 5 years, to finally realize that there was a lesson that I was never taught in life, and I had to learn on my own. You see, my mother was a magnet for it. So to me, it was normal in life. But the lesson that I learned, that I came upon on my own, that I want to bestow upon everybody else is, everybody deserves to be treated with respect and with love and with kindness. And nobody deserves to be beat, period. Zero. That's lesson number one. It took me 5 years to learn that lesson, but when I did, I decided to go on and make a change in my life. You know, it's been 30 years now since that all occurred. I'm the most blessed man in the world. I'm telling you right now, my wife is in the front. She's the most fantastic woman that could ever walk this earth. Sorry for all the rest of you ladies. She is really that good. But with that, I want to pass on a few of the other lessons that I've learned in life. Before I marry anybody, matter of fact, I'm marrying somebody tomorrow, and they had to go through some of these same things. I'm hoping to bestow some of the same knowledge that I passed on to them, onto you, in hopes that it'll have a positive effect on your life, and perhaps a positive effect on your kids and the other men that are here. You already heard rule number one. Rule number two is, don't judge. As we just talked about a moment ago, you might have a picture in your head of what that person or abused person looks like, or what maybe causes it, but we don't know what it is. You never know. You'll never know whether it was because they can't afford to go out and buy food for themselves afterwards, so they have nothing in the bank on their own. You may not know that it's kids that are holding them there. Or a vision that I have in my head that made me stop and go back, of her children beating on the window of my car, begging me not to leave me with her. When you see that in your life, You decide you have to make a change, or you don't. You stand, you take it forever until you can't take it no more. So the hope is that you learn enough that you make something different happen. You don't just take it, you adjust and you make something happen. Rule number 3 that I tell people when they're getting ready to get married. Be the person that you're hoping other people will be. Look at yourself first. Change yourself first, because it is always partially up to you and your fault. If you decide you're going to sit and take it, you're going to... Oh, no. Clayton, is there anything you can do to do that? Oh, her window's open. Do we know how to have fun in North Mason or what? So again, be the change that you're hoping others will be. Be the positive effect that you're hoping others will be. There's a man that's in this town that taught me something I want to teach you and share it with you. His name is Rob. He owns the John L. Scott down here in Belfair. One day, we were amongst a bunch of men, and these men were saying very, very nasty things about their wives, as men quite often do, and as women quite often do. But in this case, that man, who was a master chief, a retired master chief, one of the hardest guys you're going to know. This is a guy that will tell you how it is, and if you didn't hear him correct, he'll get to your nose and tell you again. But this guy here, when they started talking about their wives, he literally stepped back, looked at him, and shook his head. Now, as a man, I sat there and looked at that and thought, what just happened here? What was that? After it was over, we were walking out, and I asked him, Rob, what was that about? And he looked at me and he said, you know, I was in the service. I think he was almost 30 years. And he says, my wife was wonderful. She was the one home taking care of the kids when I was out and about. She's the one that held everything together. And let me ask you this. If I was saying things about my wife, what does that say about me as a man? You see, if I have to stand on her to get taller, I must not be much of a man, so I don't do that about my wife. Now, as a man, I watched him say that. I walked out the door with him, and I thought to myself that very moment, 15 years ago, that will be the last time that I say something disparaging about my wife to any man ever again. Because my wife is incredible. My wife is the best thing that ever happened to me. I reached up to get her, and I'm a very lucky man to have her. And the best part is, because I learned that lesson, I'm a much happier man too. The next lesson that I'd like to put out there to you is the idea that was told to me when I was young, but I didn't understand it. The very best gift that you can give your wife when you get married, or you can give your husband, the very best gift you can give your children is to love their mother. Think about that for a moment. If you take the time to love their mother, you teach that child what it's like to see a real working relationship. You teach them how it is to love somebody and how it is to be loved. You set them up to recognize that they don't have to be treated badly in order to exist. By teaching them that the greatest gift you can give is to love their mother, you open up the world for their children, and again, that brings you back to happiness. Last and final one, number 5. You all know when you have a relationship with somebody, you're just getting together with them for the first time. God put us all together for a purpose. He had the idea that you would have a mate with you to help watch your back, to help you survive. Remember, we didn't always drive cars. There was a time where we lived out in the wilderness. We lived out in the woods, and that wife of yours is what protected you and watched your back. Now, when I got married to my wife, or before I got married to my wife, I had learned this lesson already, and so I explained it to her, and I'm going to bestow it onto you. Your first job in life with your mate is to protect your mate, but most importantly, to protect them from you. Because you're the one that can hurt them more than anybody else, and I don't just mean violence. You're the one that can push every button and crush every dream that they have. The first person you, both man and woman, need to do is to protect your spouse from you. That brings us back to rule number 1. Everybody deserves to be loved, respected, and nobody deserves to get beat. Donna Sullivan. Thank you, Donna Sullivan, I didn't know you when you were here, and we didn't. And for that, some of us, like myself, are ashamed because it took me 20 minutes just to get 15 feet over here because I know and love so many of these people here. But I didn't know Donna Sullivan. But today, hopefully, she's going to have an effect on North Mason that her name will have a real, true meaning. Thank you, Donna Sullivan, for giving us an opportunity to recognize what's happening out there, and for us to now know that you have turning points, you have your churches, we have our things here. Now it's time to reach out and teach each other these same rules and the knowledge of where they can go. God bless Donna Sullivan, and God bless every person that's ready to reach out and is afraid. Don't be afraid too much longer. You can do it. Just reach out, touch somebody, we'll be there for you. God bless everybody.
I'm going to talk while people are signing up here. I love seeing this. And Dana, if you want to come up here and take it down, feel free. On the itinerary. Whew. Thank you guys for coming and making this happen. This is this community coming together, and all of your stories. I'll never be the same. This is the most amazing thing. It's about 9:15, and at about 9:30, we're going to have Amy Johnson's going to come up, and we're going to have a prayer, and that's going to lead us into the vigil, the candle lighting. Right before the candle lighting, I'd like to have a moment of silence, which is I looked this up, what a moment of silence lasts, and it's anywhere from 15 seconds on to 2 minutes. You know, they can take it there. We're going to do 15 seconds. We're going to do 1 moment of silence for Donna, and then we're going to do a moment of silence for all domestic violence victims, not just the ones that have passed on, but the ones that are still struggling. After that, we're going to light the candles, and we won't have any water to put that out. The sprinkler was it woke us all back up, and we're all ready to go. When we light the candles, we're going to have some sweet ladies come up and sing a song, and during the song, that will be the duration of holding our candles up and go through that. We can sing along. You don't have to. And when it starts, I know you'll know the words. And then at the end of the song, that will be when we will break and go home. And hopefully we take all of this with us. I'll stand back up and thank you guys again. And I think that is, we are close. We are close to lighting, but I have to go grab my matches, and hopefully that the water did not go into my door, which I'm sure it'll be fine. So yes, please, if you haven't signed yet, and signing, I would love every single one, woman, man, everybody, please sign this. And it will, I'm hoping that Turning Point will be able to put it in one of the offices. Yeah. Oh, that would be wonderful. Hopefully the water didn't hit that. And this one over here, I'm going to try to take apart nicely, and when her son comes to get her ashes from here, I'd like to send them home, the pictures home.
any pictures that you've taken from here, and hopefully I get to browse some. I'm going to try to make a book for two sides of their family and send them home. So I'm going to go grab the fire, and when you're done signing here, go grab a candle, and we can stand, or you can sit, and I will pass around some matches and hopefully get those lit. Okay, I'll be right back.
I know it's getting cold and almost dark, but we're not going to wait till it's super dark to do this. And I know we've lost a few people, and I don't want to lose all of you. I have 3 things here of matches, and I have 1 lighter. so,
Can I do a
okay.
match?
Okay, I love you too. It was nice to see you.
Mom, can I do a match?
No, you can't. Shh. So, my kid wants to play with matches right in front of all of you. So, no. Mother of the Year award going on over here. So, so Amy's going to come up and she's going to do the prayer. And right after she prays, then we're just going to do a quick 2 moments of silence that's filled with love, even though it's quick 15 seconds. And then after that, I'm going to start passing these around. These are strike on the box only. I wish we could do it the other way. They don't make those anymore. So, okay, Amy. Amy's up here for our prayer.
Hello.
We're going to be quiet because of the prayer.
Okay.
God, we come before you and we ask you to open our eyes, to help us see the person on each side of us who needs our help. God, we ask you to open our hearts so that we could give big to those who need us. God, help us to see the needs in our community and help us to meet those needs with your help. God, I pray for each person out here, Lord, if there would be anybody who is struggling with domestic violence in their home, God, that you would give them the strength that they need to find help. And God, I pray for Donna Sullivan's family. I pray for the impact that this faceless woman to us, so many of us didn't know her, but God, I pray that her impact would be huge, that you would use this horrible, horrible situation to bring light into a very, very dark world. God, we thank you for the opportunity and the ability to get together as a community and to make a difference. Please help us, and please allow the hope of your grace to bring light in the darkness. Amen.
Okay, we're going to do a moment of silence for Donna Sullivan. And now,
We're going to do a moment of silence for all domestic violence victims. Okay. I see that some of you have your candles lit. If you have a lighter with you, you can go ahead and light it. And I have one up here. Go ahead. Go ahead. Mason, don't. Yes.
Everybody's lighting off of everybody else.
And then you guys can come up, and when we get everybody.
I think everybody's lighting off of everybody.
Everybody else is,
yeah, it works.
Once we have everybody lit. Once we're all lit, if we can come together kind of in the middle, and this is what I want. I want her family from Alaska to see this. I want, if I think Dana's still here from the newspaper, I want her to be able to get a picture for this. This is all going to be going back to her family that couldn't make it. And so I think we're about just a couple more lit, and then we got these guys here that they're going to sing a wonderful song for us, and we can join in. And I'm going to step down and let that happen. My son, come on.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's grace than when we first begun. Than when we first begun.
I just wanted to thank you guys for coming. And I want you to take this home with you. And there's a little purple, if you didn't get one, a little purple ribbon. And I want you don't have to burn this again if you don't want to. But keep it. Put it somewhere. Whatever you want to do with it. But remember what this signifies. And I want you to look forward to Turning Point is having their kickoff on July 6th. I think, yeah, here in Belfair. And October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I'm probably burning this. I want you to look forward to that too, because I think that should be a very big event that happens in that month here. And I hope that you all embrace that and put it out to your family and friends and people you don't even know, that we should embrace that even more. So I'm looking forward to helping Turning Point and helping with fundraisers. So look forward to that. If anybody has any questions about domestic violence, you need help, call Turning Point. And if you have if you want to be involved, Turning Point, keep calling them. But if you have any questions or anything, you can contact me as well, and I can direct you anywhere that you need to go for exact questions. So please take this with you tonight. And as we head out, just remember to watch your community. Go and meet people that just moved in. Embrace everybody, not just your community, but especially your community. So thank you guys. It was wonderful. You guys are awesome.